Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, Project M&M, the Mercury Makeover, is back in for more maintenance items, and so is Tom. Tom, you're with us. Tom, we're one step closer for cruising this baby around. We're going to go look for some Thai food. I know you like Thai food, and you're even going to drive. What are we going to tackle this time?
Replace the coolant, replace the hoses. Get the coolant system up to date.
And that's a good idea. I mean, we got coolant left, we got transmission and differential we'll do a little later. We're going to touch every fluid on this car. Why do we want to replace the coolant?
Well, it's been 10 years and we're replacing the hoses, so I'd hate to take out old coolant, try to filter out the crud and put it back in. That just doesn't make sense. So replace the coolant and the hoses at the same time.
And that's just common sense. If this isn't proof enough, well, you look right here. I actually dipped this. We actually opened the petcock and drained some of the coolant out. I have some right here. And if you look at it on the bottle, I mean, we're down here to almost no protection whatsoever. I mean, we're down to 225 degrees. I mean, nothing. I mean, this thing's going to boil over. Our pH is about middle of the road. It's time to flush it regardless. So that's one thing we can do. Now, you can also pressure test the system. This is important. If you think you have a leak or your coolant's going down, it's pretty simple. You just take the cap off, get your pressure tester like this here. We did ours a little earlier, a little adapter to screw on there. Then I take the pressure tester, I put it on there, I pump it up, and I actually watch the pressure. If the pressure starts to drop or starts to drop down on the gauge here, what's telling us is we got a leak. We can have an external leak or an internal leak. I mean, no matter what, we're going to go ahead and service this one. So where are you going to start with, Tom?
Well, let's start at the top. We've got the thermostat housing, the thermostat, and the upper radiator hose. Easy to see. Let's start here.
Okay, great. So you're going to go ahead and get the clamps. I'll start removing the thermostat housing. Bolts on top of here. Now these things, you know, you have years and years of use and abuse on there, and they could be cooked on there. Sometimes you need to take a pick and go around there and get them off, and you get that off. I'll go ahead and wiggle this hose off right here on the upper one before I move it. There it goes. All right, I'll give you a hand with that. Pull these bolts out. There you go. Thermostat's located right inside of the housing right here. You'll see it in a second as soon as I get this pulled off. Good idea to replace it too, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting the engine up to the proper speed is extra important these days with the newer cars. You're thinking about the temperature of the transmission as well as the engine, and it's got to be at the right point.
Yeah, thermostat, that's an important piece of the puzzle. I mean, anytime you overheat a car, always replace the thermostat. I mean, if it fails, you got catastrophic damage. Now, you just picked out the O-ring. Now, we got a new thermostat, and we ordered an O-ring as well. That's pretty cool. So once you do that, you grab them pliers there, see, or they're loose. Yeah, once you get that O-ring out of there, you're in good shape. There's the old one. Just match it up to the new one.
Yeah,
make sure our surface is clean. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. It's nice because we have an O-ring. We don't have a gasket, so we can just put the new O-ring right in there.
Yeah, Ford did this right. This is nice.
Yeah, it's real nice. Then we'll go ahead and put the thermostat housing back on. Take notice that there's two different size bolts, or excuse me, they're same bolts, but they're long bolts. They don't go into a coolant jacket, so I don't need any RTV or anything on them. We'll just put it back on there. I'll go ahead and get that started while you get the clamps going. Now, one other thing too that I want to mention is right here. I pressure test the system, the cap. Now, the cap is another integral part of the system because the cap allows it to build pressure. And when we build pressure, it actually starts to raise up the boiling point, and that's huge. So what I'm going to do is we ordered from RockAuto.com, same thing. We got a cap as well. So we're just going to go ahead and put the cap on there. And when we put the cap on there, we know we're going to be sealed, good to go. New cap fits right. We'll fill it up with coolant. We'll bleed the system, and we'll be good to go. Tom, we'll get that put on there in a second. Why don't you just let it sit there. Talk about this hose for a minute because this is actually crazy.
Yeah, you see that a lot these days. The super complex radiator hoses, you'll even see the radiator cap on a fitting in the middle of the hose.
Yeah.
And this is something you want to get the original equipment style system. You don't want to use something like this, a universal one size fits all.
No, not on this
fittings,
one.
You'll create a plumbing nightmare. So.
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't notice too is really inside the hose. Take a look in there, Tom. What do you think of that mess? I mean,
yeah, that's where a lot of the damage happens these days, is inside the hose where you can't see. It used to be, oh, I can look and see bulges and stuff on the outside. It'll be in the hose, so you just got to replace it as part of routine maintenance versus something you'll see on the outside.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know that as well. Now let's go ahead, get that buttoned up. Talk a little bit about that thermostat, because I know we're going to head over to the table and look at some of these housings.
This is a pretty nice thermostat housing. It's metal. Maybe you could break off one of these ears, or you could have some corrosion. But a lot of new cars these days have these super complex plastic housings with multiple fittings, and those warp and crack and leak. And so we sell a lot of replacements, and I have a tip on when you install a replacement, how to get it to last longer.
Well, let's get this buttoned up and we'll head over to the computer and check it out.
Sounds good.
Now, I mentioned earlier, anytime you overheat a car, replace the thermostat. Problem is, some of these coolant housings, man, these things are apparatuses.
Yeah, plastic started being used in a lot of vehicles, and they may have multiple nipples and very complex. I pulled up the 2001 Ford Focus as an example. You can see just how complex these things are. Nipples and the replacement ones are often better with metal reinforcing in the fittings, so you can't over tighten them. A neat little trick that I know of is put them in boiling water before you install them. Maybe that limbers up the plastic a little bit. You're less likely to get a stress crack down the road.
Yeah, and torque specifications are key. Stick around. There's plenty more Tech Garage right after this break.